Welcome to Absurdly Nerd. This is our episode 6 of The Last of Us recap and review. I'm Merle, he's Eric, and we're going to get right into it, starting with exposition. So, something I've been thinking of since watching this episode is how this show is doing a perfect job of gripping you for the rest of the episode.
Oh, yeah.
And not just in a way that's like, oh, action, someone dying right off the bat. It's like it settles you into this movie-like scene.
I like how this one just started out and it was like 3 months later, but all you know is that they bonded a little more.
Yeah.
They're working together more. It jumped 3 months later, but it didn't feel like a jump, really. I
you
didn't
see-
feel like I missed anything.
Right. You see the natural progression with how they act amongst people.
Yeah.
Like seeing how they interact with each other. You know, they've talked about things like how to survive, and they've they're still not like lovey-dovey or anything, but
No.
you can tell there's a respect between them. But I think it's really cool how funny this show can be in such a dark atmosphere.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love that these two, this Native American couple was warning them about this, like, just a terror across the river.
Yeah, but they're like so over it. They're the old
Yeah.
people that have been around this whole time, and they're like, you don't want to go that way. Basically,
She
like,
said, "Did you made him soup?" Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
yeah,
Or he
it's
said
cold
it.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're definitely like these kids. Like that's
Yeah.
how they act about it. Like they've survived. It's really cool to think of their own story. Like I feel like HBO's good enough they could do their own episode for
yeah.
them. But like in that little amount of time, you could see the dynamic between them two and how they have lived married through this whole thing. But yeah, I think every episode has had something unique, but also similar to the next in terms of how it grabs you and shows you more of the world and a different aspect of how people deal with the world or how the world came to be how it is.
Yeah.
I think from there we'll go straight into performance. So I think this is one of my favorite acted episodes.
All the acting in this was amazing. Bella Ramsey killed it. I continued to kill it as Ellie. I've loved her the season so far. Her acting's been better than anything I could have thought of.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I hope they can find someone that captures Ellie's spirit, and I think they did with this casting.
I was questioning it whenever I saw her cast. Not that she wasn't good in Game of Thrones, it's just like we didn't know. Like there wasn't a lot
She
of
was
her
so
in there.
different in Game of
Right.
Thrones, like monotone,
Yeah,
like
literally the opposite
Yeah,
character.
yeah.
Like she was very
a
reserved.
grown up in a kid's body in Game
Right.
of Thrones, pretty much.
The thing I thought of with this is like I can't believe she is Ellie. She's not just a version of Ellie. I see her the same way I see the game
Yeah.
character. Like she's portraying it that well. That's just how good her acting is. I mean, I would say the same for Joel with Pedro playing him. He's doing a great job, but at the end of the day, he's Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
I can keep seeing that, and that's just something that comes with being a star that's been in such popular things lately. Whereas she doesn't have that hanging over her, so it really stands out to me that like. Well, I guess I would say the opposite. It really sinks in the episode that she's Ellie. Whereas sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm so glad
If we
Pedro
wouldn't have
Pascal's doing
got
this.
Mandalorian and like his popularity boom, I think I would notice it more. But it is it's hard to not see Pedro Pascal
Right.
in it. He's doing an amazing
Oh
job.
yeah, I was just about to point to the moment in the show that it made me tear up, like him talking to Tommy about everything.
Yeah.
Like that was such good acting, dude. Like he really put you in his shoes right there, and you reason with him, even though like you don't want him to leave Ellie.
Yeah.
You're like, stop being
You
a
understand
jackass.
why he wants to.
Right? Yeah. Like he wasn't being a jackass, but in my mind, I was like, come on, man, you know you got to go with her.
Yeah.
We both did look at each other and was like, why doesn't he just go with Tommy? That's how the game was. He was still trying to push her to go with Tommy, and he wasn't going to go and everything. But at the time, I didn't think of that. I'm like, why don't he just go with her,
Yeah.
with him? But speaking of Tommy, man,
He's awesome.
is it Diego Luna? Something Luna.
Maybe.
I think it's Diego
I
Luna.
think Diego Luna's.
No, that's
Andor.
yeah, Gabriel Luna. Okay, they may be related. We need to look that up later. But I think he's doing such a good job of being the yin to Joel's yang. Like
Yeah.
he is that. Like they're one and the same in a way, but they've reacted to situation differently.
Didn't get enough Tommy in the first episode, so I didn't ever think of it. But
Right.
He came up in this episode, and his acting is amazing. Like, just he feels like he's been through so much in this time span,
Oh,
and
yeah.
how much he's changed in that 20-year span, and he acted that so well. Of
Yeah.
being kind of scared, cautious of
doesn't-
Joel coming back.
He doesn't want to mess up the thing he's got going, but
Right.
at the same time, you can see the inner like turmoil of it's my brother. I
Yeah.
don't want to let him down, and then that comes around to where he does agree to to do it for him. I think Maria's great. I think
Yeah,
she's
she's
a great
awesome.
actor, and I'd like to see more from her. And I feel like we will going forward,
Yeah.
at least in the next season. really just all around, everyone does a good job so far in the show. There's nothing you can point to, and I didn't expect to because it's HBO. They know how to cast.
I was gonna say that this just the setting and the actors that they have make this so believable.
Yeah.
I can't sit there and point out, well, that's acting, that's a set. Like it's
Right. You never break immersion like
Yeah.
a lot of shows do for me these days. Like we've gotten old enough, I get a little cynical.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh, this guy's acting. He's getting paid to do this. But HBO's always been good about that. I can get engrossed in a show and not once break on it. Like I may be really impressed with the big set pieces and everything, and at that moment, I'm like, oh, this is a show. But it doesn't. It's not a bad thing. That's just impressive work.
Right.
But from there, we'll move on to adaptation. I think this episode had a great variety of video game adaptation, from directly recreating scenes like the iconic scene with Joel and Ellie where she doesn't want him to leave, and that scene was perfect. Like, and I didn't know if they'd go straight shot for shot like they did, and I think it was the right idea.
If you leave stuff like that out, it's backlash. But then if you don't do it in the way people want you to, it's backlash. So I think they hit the perfect spot on there, because it was a great scene. Even though it was a scene I knew from the game, line from line, I still was hanging on the edge of my seat. And that's what I think. That's what they nailed. Even the people that's watched it still can be on the edge of their seat about this.
I think that was what's crazy about it, is like just seeing it literally brought to life. Like the game already does a great job of that, because it's we're in the year we're in where games do almost look like real life, but then it's like that extra step, and for it to not miss anything, I was super impressed by that. I had said to you that the thing with video game adaptation that I think has held it back for so long is that a lot of times when you try to recreate a scene, an iconic scene or a location in a game into a show or a movie, it feels like an SNL skit.
Yeah.
Like it almost feels like parody, like it's trying to be, I don't know, it feels cheesy. And at no point has this show felt cheesy with anything they did. Like even little touches like the duct tape, I mean, I don't even think they were trying to make it a focus, but in my mind, that was a good connection between the game for me. Because I'm like, I made the joke of, you're going to need that for nail bombs later.
Yeah.
Like, I like all the little stuff. They are using the same clothes, the same materials that they would use, and it makes you think about those things.
But they're not doing, like, video game scavenging. Like,
right.
They're not
You're not sitting there
cheesy.
watching him pull it out of the bag and craft that thing. Like, that would be ridiculous. Or like Doom back in the day, where they took it first person and made it look like you were playing the game. I was like, that was corny as hell.
I want movie adaptations to get away from that, because my biggest problem with Sonic is the new stuff they add in, like the humans. I don't need the humans in Sonic. Like that's never been the draw of the game. Yeah. So like I appreciate the stuff that they've added into The Last of Us. Fits in that world. It makes sense. It makes me enjoy the lore more.
Yeah, I was gonna lead into that. The added things that really enhance it, in my opinion, are like the campfire scene where they have to take watch. It's something I hadn't thought about. Like someone had to stay awake and watch out for what's going on, and just the bonding they had there. We didn't get to see that, in the first game much in terms of like those quiet moments, because otherwise you'd be watching a whole lot of cutscenes, and it's a game at the end of the day. But seeing them talk about what they would do if the world went back to normal was really a great scene, in my opinion. The addition of Joel having kind of the panic attacks enhanced his emotion of, not wanting to lose Ellie. I feel like that's the whole theme here. And even him thinking he saw Sarah there in Jackson, I think that was really good for the viewer, especially people that haven't played the game, to get the emotional loss that he had. Like we get to see it at the beginning, but to understand that never leaves him.
To think that we're 6 weeks from that, I'm glad they kind of, not for me, but say this is your first time and being in the world of Last of Us.
Remind people.
It's a reminder of that he lost a daughter, and then this person is in his life, and making it harder on him to just be Joel.
I think that is, those types of things added into it are perfect, and they're not at all corny or anything. They've done great with that. As far as kind of switching things around, they haven't done many that bother me in any way. I do like the change to Jackson instead of the dam. The dam was dreary. It was kind of like, it wasn't this symbol of hope that you felt like you were moving towards whenever you're trying to get to Wyoming. Whereas Jackson is 100% a symbol of hope.
Yeah, and it was just a recreation from part 2. Like
that's crazy. It looks just like
the church, or where is it with the lights?
Yeah,
where they're watching a movie. That's where they had the.
I think it's the church.
It's like they had the big dance in part 2. So it was cool to see that being set up
Yeah.
for the future. Joel's house, like I think you go back to
Oh,
that
yeah,
game, so
yeah.
so I'm hopefully we see more of that.
Oh yeah, they're setting up the long haul here. One thing I didn't like in terms of changing it was the final scene, and this will lead into resolution. That scene to me was anticlimactic.
If you played the game, it is a bombastic scene,
Yeah,
like
intense.
action. It's just like they're in the college with you, and you have to get out.
Being underwater, getting drowned, and everything. Like it plays out for a while, and you're like, at any moment he could, get shot, or like he could die at any moment, and then you think you're safe, and then he falls on the rebar. Like, so that was way more of a swing of emotions, whereas this was like they see him through the window, they get to the horse. As a gamer that has played the game, I knew there was going to be a confrontation, and then it's where it was and how fast it played out, and they stabbed.
It's just one guy, and then it made me mad because like that one guy's dead now, and then but
I thought she was about to shoot them all and then them leave,
because now they're going to be followed, which it may lead into a bigger threat.
Yeah.
But
those guys just seem so inconsequential and just happened to be there. That was the first time I was like, oh, this is a little convenient. Like they just found a way to tie it in without having to do a big scene here. But I think the overall resolution there, to where it leaves us off, is really good because we get to look forward to, Left Behind being the next episode, and then David's camp and everything with that, and going into winter, like the heavy winter. I'm super excited for what's to come. So I think the actual resolution is good. I think that scene that got us to where we are with Joel being injured,
it felt
not as good as
it felt like. How can we do this fast and let's get this? Because it is a big moment from the game. Like they have to have Joel get hurt to go to the next thing. But like, how can we do this and make it fast and get it out of the way?
Yeah, that's exactly
how it felt. So,
which is the first time I felt like that. I feel like everything else, they're like, how can we enhance this moment and make it bigger? Like the fight in the last episode, in
the
episode
sniper
5.
part.
Like that was so much more of a
That was
grand
awesome.
thing than the game. So this is the only time I've seen them like take a step back from a moment that was a really big moment.
Yeah, because the university is one of those, I guess, stages is the best way to put it. That stand out in that game. Where I know I don't want him to explore like you do in the game, but I wanted that action scene to end this episode. I think this episode would have been almost perfect if they would have ended on that.
Yeah, they removed all the gamification out of that scene, and I understand it. But like, whenever he walked in without a gate in his way, I was like, not fair. I spent so long getting around that gate to get in there. I did love the monkey scene. I think that was
still
great.
made me jump.
Yeah,
still jumped.
The monkeys look so good the first time you see them. Like those look like real monkeys. And then you open the room, and like it's that. I think of Jumanji, the original Jumanji, where the monkeys are just so much like there, and they're not there. Like it's very obviously CG.
The giraffes, they're like, we can get real giraffes.
I hope, man. I don't know, because they needed. That's hard to gate them around and make them do what you want them to do, but we'll see. But that'll bring us to our final section, which is the grade. What do you give this?
I'm gonna give this a solid A. I think it was very good, and my gripes with the end were withstanding. Like, I think the rest of the episode was perfect. I love the early introduction to Jackson. I feel like we're going to spend a lot more time there in season 2. Yeah, every change I thought besides the ending was good, and I enjoyed this. The acting in this was amazing.
Yeah, I'm giving it an A too. The only reason it's not an A plus in my favorite episode is the resolution was a little lacking for me. But I do think everything up until that point was some of my favorite. Like, I couldn't look away.
The next 3 episodes should be packed, big.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot going on there. Yeah, I'm really excited. But we want to know if you're excited. And if you are, leave a comment, maybe a like, maybe consider subscribing. But until next time, stay nerdy.